But yeah, what I want to talk about really quick today, and I've touched on it a little bit on some of my posts, and I touched on it on a YouTube video uh, that I posted, which was actually a live that I did with my mastermind, but I'm going to follow up on it. And if you're in a situation, a custody situation, a divorce situation, or whatever, and there's an order of court out there, and you're wondering, okay, there's this order of court out here, either what am I supposed to do, or the other side is, let's take it first with what am I supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is follow the order of court, okay? Regardless of if it's, alimony payments on a divorce, or support payments, or child support payments, or whatever, or custody, exchanges, whatever, you are supposed to follow the order of court. That is number one. Follow the order of court. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, that's all well and good, but I lost my job. I'm not working. I don't have any money. Or, what about them ordering us to stay in our houses, or not to go anywhere? Or what about my doctor says that I'm high risk for, COVID-19? Then what? Follow the order of court is the general advice. However, if any of those situations are true and they make it literally like next to impossible to follow the order of court, then you bet your ass you better be getting something filed into court to modify that order based on your extraneous circumstances. Now, many courts aren't hearing any of this shit or even accepting any of this stuff right now, okay? But you still need to at least either do it or be able to show that you attempted to file it and were turned away, so that when you are not following the order of court, you can go in eventually when shit reopens and say, like, look, judge, I know I was supposed to turn over the kids, but like my doctor gave me strict orders not to leave the house, and I told so-and-so to come and pick them up and they wouldn't, or whatever the situation is. But if it's just a situation where you're like, hey, we're supposed to stay inside, and I don't think any of you are doing this, but maybe you can use it in your case, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But if someone's doing that and saying, hey, I'm supposed to stay inside, so I'm not following the order of court, like, it's bullshit. Like, first off, for the most part, kids aren't even at risk with this whole thing. Now, granted, do they transport it and everything? Should we fear that? Absolutely. Like, that's why schools are closed. That's why, like, my ex and I are taking like precautions of like keeping the kids like in houses and keeping them away from people. It's not because their health is at risk. It's because they could be transporters. So you can't use that as an excuse. Okay. Now, if the situation is reverse and someone's not following through with the order of court, or someone's not paying you alimony or child support or whatever, then what you can do, and unfortunately, the only thing you can really do is keep notes of the whole thing. Here, we'll break it down for you. Number one, attempt to put the court on notice of the situation, either by a modification or a contempt or whatever, okay? Even if you have to file it and the court won't necessarily hear it yet, at least get it on the docket, or attempt to get it on the docket and show the court why you couldn't at a later date. So that's number one. Get your facts straight, get something filed, or at least attempt to get something filed with someone at the courthouse telling you, no, we're not accepting this stuff right now, and then make a note of that. Number two, keep notes of all of the facts. Keep notes of all of the facts that are going on that are relevant. Okay, so maybe, keep a journal. I'm supposed to get the kids at 6 p.m. I was supposed to get the kids at 6 p.m. yesterday. My ex told me that they were not. All they said was that because we're stuck at home. I sent this blank text, this blank meaning like this text to them asking for them. Okay. And when you're doing that, make sure you're keeping the relevant facts. All right. Because the reason why is when the courts reopen and you can get into court, then you can be persuasive and you can present this in an orderly fashion, so that so that then you can better your chances of winning this and either getting some sort of a contempt action or at a minimum makeup time, right? So that's number two. Number one was either file or attempt to file. Number two is keep accurate notes and facts relating to the relevant circumstances, okay? Number three, this is very important. Be cooperative, flexible, and cordial about it. I know that's hard if someone's telling you you can't see your kids. Like, I get it. It's bullshit. However, if you turn it into a battle, all it's going to do is muddy the waters so that when you do get into court, the other side's going to be able to throw dirt at you and to bring things up that you did wrong over the past few weeks too. Okay? So bite the bullet, be cordial, flexible, cooperative in your communication, especially communication that can be captured for court, like text messages, emails, voicemails, anything like that. All right. And that's number three. Number four is continue to maintain a relationship with your children without discussing the current situation with them. And you can do that via telephone, FaceTime, whatever. Just continue to check in on them on a reasonable basis. You know what I mean? You don't need to talk to them, 10 times a day. But if you want to keep in touch at a reasonable basis, but don't bring up the current circumstances. Don't bring up, oh, well, you're stuck at mom's house. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get you, but she won't let me. Don't bring up any of that. Just keep it as normal as possible for them. If they ask, why, just say, hey, your dad and I are working it out, or your mom and I are working it out, or whatever. And don't worry about it. Just take care of yourself. All right. So those are really the 4 steps. File or attempt to file with evidence showing why you couldn't, meaning someone told you no, not because you couldn't get to the courthouse or because your email wasn't working or whatever. Number 2 is keep a journal of all of the relevant facts. To use in court. Number 3 is remain cooperative and cordial and flexible. And number 4 is keep an open line of communication and a relationship with your kids without disclosing, what's going on. And if you follow those 4 things, now granted, I get it. Like if my ex and I weren't getting along and I all of a sudden wasn't seeing my kids for a month, I'd be pissed. But who knows what I could do? I would do these 4 steps. That's exactly what I would do, because no one in Westmoreland County right now is hearing any cases of, like, even our courts, like, just to give you an example of how crazy it is right now. Like, I went in today I had 15 arraignments I had to do today, which is nuts. Like, on a regular day, I'll have hearings and stuff, but on a regular day, I might have like 2 arraignments or 1 arraignment. And that's not because all of a sudden everybody's, committing crimes. That's because the courts are shut down. So my point in telling you this is I went in today to do those, but I didn't have to. And why I say I didn't have to is because what we did as magisterial judges, there are 17 of us, 16 of us now in our county. And what we did was we have divided each over the next however many days until April 14th, I believe, is the date that the Supreme Court's going to relook at everything. Up until April 14th, we have divided each day for 1 judge. So 1 judge is handling everything that comes through on 1 day. And the reason why is because most of the stuff is not even going to be heard. It's only arraignments where constitutional rights could potentially be violated. And any preliminary hearing where a constitutional right could be violated, right? It's nothing to do, no landlord-tenant cases, no evictions, no civil cases. So if somebody owes somebody money, there's nothing that. People are just getting screwed. And my point in telling you that is that translates too in the common pleas court for family law. So with regard to a custody modification, obviously every county is different, but I'm guessing you're not going to get that heard now. Contempt, you're not going to get that heard now. contempt for support payments. I highly doubt you're not going to get that heard now. I don't know if domestic relations, I know Andrea, you had a question earlier. I don't think domestic relations is accepting those kinds of things. I don't know. I haven't tried. But my point is, if things go like, if things go bad for you guys during this time, unfortunately, you kind of just have to roll with it right now. And it's shitty. I know, I'm not trying to make light of it, but that's just the world we live in right now. So, and then so we don't end on like a shitty note. Then what I want to do is during this time, do your best to stay grateful, to count your blessings. You are healthy, you are alive. You are, regardless of what sometimes people want to portray in the media, like you are in the greatest country in the world, like the most freedoms, like, we are in a good spot. Or do things suck right now? Yeah. But you have to look for what you have to be grateful of. Maybe it's healthy kids. Maybe it's kids that love you. Maybe it's a relationship with your children, however, big or small that may be. You got to stay focused on what you're grateful for, because if not, you're going to be swallowed up by the fear and the panic that's going on right now. And no one needs that. All that does is decreases your immune system. It messes with your brain. I was just telling one of my staff members today down at court. It's funny because I've been like really optimistic over all of this stuff. I think everything's going to end up being completely okay. I think we're going to get through it completely fine. But even me being as optimistic as I am, there have been nights over the past 6 days where I'm like sitting alone after my kids go to bed, and I'm like, holy shit, like this is crazy. Like you hear stories of like bodies being carried out in Italy and like everything like that. But you have to protect yourself from that fear, because feeling that fear and watching that stuff and everything's not going to do anything for you. You're not going to win anything or avoid anything, or you're not going to stay healthy. You're not going to protect yourself at all with fear at all, or panic. So the best case is just look at what's going on and look what you can do to protect yourself and your family, and to remain grateful, vigilant, positive, hopeful, the whole thing. And it's possible.